Glass Beach Plastic Death album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Glass Beach. This is their second album, and this is an LA-based band. They've been at it for a few years now, and an eclectic bunch of people, to say the very least. Now, back in 2019, they put themselves on the map with their debut, the first Glass Beach album, and it's an album that I kind of went under my radar at the time. I mean, I knew people were talking about it, but I did not give it the time that I think it deserved at the time. And it is a very impressive debut. While far from perfect, it really does pull from a lot of different genres and does a lot of things really, just really well, whether it be emo or art rock or math rock or some indie-tronica thrown in. Power pop and progressive rock too. Yeah, Glass Beach touched down on a lot of sounds. But what else would you expect from a band that cites everybody from Jeff Rosenstock to They Might Be Giants as major influences on their sound? It kind of checks out. Now, I did like the album, but I also kind of thought it was a little long-winded at times, and some of the longer, more progressive cuts, I felt like they missed the mark. But that being said, my eyes were glued in their direction. Now, this review is late because this album has been out for a few weeks now, but I've been trying to be better about popping things onto my calendar that people are really discussing and chatting about and want to hear about. I mean, God, yeah, this review's late, but this review's going to be even later. But right now we're talking about Glass Beach, and right now I want to dive into this album because there is once again a lot to like here. I mean, if anything, Glass Beach definitely do have a very exciting sound. I mean, take their example, tracks like Motion. This to me, it's track of the album by far, and this is the kind of cut from the band that just, it takes it to the next level for me. It's upbeat, it's got a super, almost like a post-punk math rock kind of riff that we get here. It's very, angular and definitely a little bit, off the beaten path, but it's also got that drive and determination. The sound of Glass Beach is really something. We had colorful atmospheres, a very busy atmosphere as well. This is a very heady album, but also we get very quirky vocals. But everything kind of works here and comes together in this beautifully weird jam. Even the intense finale is just truly very thrilling. Slip Under the Door is one of the more pensive and sort of ambient-leaning tracks here, at least as far as the intro goes. I will say this as well. Glass Beach do a great job at making an atmosphere. We get these lush strings and really beautiful, pleasant pianos that are just so sweet on the ears. But then, of course, this is a Glass Beach album. We also get a very devilish, tense math rock riff that just kind of explodes through everything. Yeah, you don't really ever know what you're going to hear from a Glass Beach record. I mean, this track starts out as really lush and divine and colorful, but it also is really tense and definitely a post-punk track at heart. And the extended instrumental portion is done really well, too. This track is just, it's a journey. I really do love Rare Animal, too. Once again, the backdrop on some of these tracks is just so colorful and full of life. This one has a ton of nods to, true classic Midwest emo, like think your American Footballs and stuff. But it also has the freakish performances of a band like the Dismemberment Plan. Also, it has the progressive nature of a band like The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. Yeah, Glass Beach touched down on a lot. It's a heady one for sure. I mean, good luck keeping track of these tracks. But the performances and the overt joyousness of a track like this knock it out of the park. I really like cul-de-sac as well. I mean, the transition here, for one, is seamlessly done. It's beautiful. It's another very fluid, layered track with a lot more synths. It's, once again, a very colorful jam. I also really love the drama of this track because it is here in spades. Now, I will say this. Vocal-wise, there are some tracks on here that take a little while to resonate with me. Because they are very often pretty damn quirky, but on tracks like this, honestly, I think things come together in a really beautiful way. For sure, Glass Beach do have a very exciting sound. It continues into tracks like Whalefall. I think this is one of the best tracks here, honestly. It may be one of the most inviting cuts that we get. It's just so warm and easy to cozy up to. And I love the way that the vocals just kind of melt into this instrumental here. It's really good. And the rhythms on this track, especially when they pick up, are really nice. Also, the electronic elements of this song are really well done. I mean, they are sharp, and that's something that, it's not something that always goes over well, and we'll get to that. And with Puppy, the math rock influence is at its strongest. It's stronger than My Beard Game, and My Beard Game's pretty strong. It's a hard track to put your finger on, and it gets even worse as the vocals pop in. It's a hard track to put your finger on, even more so when these vocals pop in, but a lot of these tracks, halfway through, a lot of these elements come together, and everything is just blissful and beautiful. Not to mention, the final minute of this track may be the most anthemic minute on this album. Also, want to shout out the CIA. This track is the darkest and the densest track here. I mean, that bass riff is just freaking bulky, and the production, which has been a shining star throughout this whole album, has not sounded much better than this. I mean, I just hope you like your art rock layered, because, there's a lot going on here. It's quirky and bouncy at times. It's dark and pretty driven at other times. Not to mention, Glass Beach can write a freaking hook. We also transition into some of the warmest, most instrumental jams here, and by the time that the finale rolls around, it's genuinely some of the most hellish material here. This album's a trip. But it's sadly not without its flaws. I mean, Guitar Song, for one, which I feel like a lot of people have been hyping up and really enjoying from this record, I don't get it. Compared to the rest of this album, this track just seems way too tame. Also, vocal-wise, least interesting performance on this album for me. It's so middle of the road. I mean, compared to so many other tracks here, this one just kind of blows by and doesn't really move me in my tracks at all. And Comatose, late in the album, I hate to say it, but I think this is the worst track here. Now, this is one of two monolithic tracks here. This thing is 10 minutes long, or just about. And we get another sort of subdued intro. This track really does take its time warming up, but it's also shockingly one-dimensional for an album like this. I mean, really here, this is definitely them phoning it in for the first few minutes at least. It's certainly light and sweet on the ears, and I can understand if you enjoy this, but it's not really moving me. Even when things pick up, more than anything, I'm feeling a sense of deja vu. I feel like this is a recycling of a lot of ideas from other tracks here. But the synths on this track seem completely out of place, and vocal-wise, once again, we are lost and things sound more obnoxious than anything. I do want to point out, though, the screams on this track are actually well done. And the final movement is just some of the more boring material on this album. I mean, a track like this is a huge undertaking, and I felt like they would be better at it than this, even if the final synth solo is actually pretty dazzling. So yeah, there's a lot to like here, but there's also material that's very middle of the road, like Coelacanth as an intro here. Yeah, this track is just a little long-winded for me, but it does have a lot going for it, like the production, the ambiance, the atmosphere. But it's a track like this that kind of fits middle of the road for me. Vocal-wise, things are either really heavenly and gorgeous here, or just downright annoying. And it's a pretty progressive track, like we go places, and some of the movements that we get here I actually really like. The patient drumming, the math rock guitars, the very warm tropical atmosphere, that's all great. And the euphoric finale that we get here is breathtaking. But it's almost 7 minutes, and it does border on a little bit too much at times. The killer, for me, it's just kind of okay. Stripping things down for a more organic sound this late in the album actually sounded like a good idea to me. And the atmosphere that we get here, very cozy, very inviting. I don't know, though. It's just, there's some missteps here. Like, the acoustic guitar at first is fine, but as soon as the synths pop in, everything just kind of sounds a little sloppy. 200, on the other hand, is a taste of lounge music that I didn't expect to hear on here, but it sounds really good. It's a jazzy ballad that sounds ripped out of some hazy, smoky, late-night lounge, but honestly, it's done with such an appreciation for this sound, I can't help but respect it. But this is far from an on-the-rails tune. It's not like Glass Beach or taking it easy on this track. Because this track, in its finale, just keeps adding layers and layers. To go up against basically any other track here, it's an awesome one. And Abyss Angel, as a finale, I think they really knock it out of the park with one of the best tracks here. Even if vocally, this is something that maybe I'm the only one here feeling this. I feel like vocally, there's a lot of Tom Yorkisms on this record. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a constant thing, but on tracks like this, I definitely feel it. And here, it actually works out pretty well. For a stripped-down ballad of a finale, honestly, I'm really impressed. It's heartfelt, it's passionate. Pianos are graceful as hell, and there is a strong drama to this cut as well. It amps me up for the band's future and puts a nice, neat little bow on this record. Now, this was a really hard record for me to rate in my usual rating fashion, just because the bulk of this material here is so exciting and fresh, and I can't wait to see what this band does in the future, because I think they can continue to top this and top this with what they've got going on right now. My thing is, there are some blips on the radar and some tracks that are middle of the road. I think the bulk of the material here is really exciting. They just need to trim it down a little bit. For now, I'm feeling like the lightest 7 known to man. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.